we're playing all these venues, the same kind of venues that we'd play here in Australia, but we're doing it in Europe. So, it looks amazing on paper, but and it is amazing, but it's dirty and gritty, and it's getting your hands filthy and all the rest.
Yeah.
One of the places we played in Berlin, the guys didn't have a music license, so they were like, you can play for 45 minutes, you have to stop.
Yeah.
And if you see a police officer come in, turn off everything, right down, leave.
Yeah.
Like, because he was like, I will get fined big money. And so it was really weird. So we were like, okay, cool. And he's like, don't set up yet. Okay, set up. And we set up, and then we play. And he's like, okay, cool, back down. Yo, I'm Michael from the Koffin Rockers. This is part 2. I'm like herpes. I keep coming back. If you haven't got it, you definitely have it now. In the words of Sean Butcher, gonoherpasiphilaides.
Oh, Shawnee.
Right. Penicillin doesn't work, man.
I've had some old school parties with Shawnee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Early to probably around 2009, 2010-ish. So actually just before you guys started the Koffin Rockers, because I vividly remember one night him telling us about this new band he started.
Yeah. Oh, he started.
Well, not he started. That he's joined in.
The dude couldn't even play bass.
well,
he still can't.
Well,
It's a joke.
That was the thing, because
really
I remember him talking about how he's playing bass guitar.
Yeah.
And because I'd known him for a few years before that, I was like, fuck, dude, I didn't even know you played bass guitar.
he had the look, man.
Yeah, he does.
You know what? And that's, it's the Sex Pistols all over again.
Yeah.
It was like, we had a bass player here in town, and he left to move to Melbourne, and we were like, crap, what are we going to do? And we went on the search, and we found this guy, and he had a double bass, and he had tattoos.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, it's got to be him, right?
Yeah.
So the rest is history.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If you guys at home don't know who the Koffin Rockers are, pause right now, go listen to a couple of their songs. You guys got plenty of material out.
Yeah, Spotify, all over Spotify.
And then come back after you've educated yourselves.
Yes, and
on
also
an awesome local band.
Yeah, and also just to clarify, this is That BJ Show, and this is episode 11. This is part 2 of 2 parts of our episode with Mick. So just in case if you're picking up on the episode from now onwards, if you haven't listened to part 1, do yourself a favor, go back and listen to part 1 so you can get to know a little bit more about Mick and the amazing conversation we had regarding personal mental health and so many different other things that we spoke about. But it was a very, very refreshing episode.
Yeah.
Welcome, guys.
So thank you for coming back to our part 2. Thank you for boys for letting me go and relieve myself.
Had a piss break.
Because I was proper busting.
I could see him next to me at the corner of my eye, like squirming a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
I was like,
something's wrong.
What's the fluid buildup under his?
Honestly, I was ready to burst.
Yeah.
100%. So, but anyway, this is going to be a really cool episode where we talk a lot more about your journey, Mick, with the band, and get to know a little bit more about you. Let's get. I think we should. Obviously, we don't have to pigeonhole ourselves into like a more fun episode. We can still talk about serious stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But man, I would love to get to know more, because we were talking just before the pre-show.
Yeah.
We were talking about like, your journey over to Europe and stuff like that, and you had some great perspective on going to Germany and all the other different places that you've been to as well. So man, I would love to just take the mic, man.
Take the mic.
Tell us about literally anything that you want. I want to know anything to do with the band.
Well, this started because you guys have an upcoming Japanese.
Yeah.
Japanese tour. Japanese. What? You know what the fuck I'm trying to say?
I do.
You guys are going to Japan. Is what I'm trying to say.
We are. So middle of the year, we're off there. Yep. 8 shows. Going to be amazing.
Yeah. So that'll be cool. But then I remembered from a few years back, you guys also went to Europe.
We did. Yeah.
So that would have been cool.
Okay. Cool. So I think it's logical to start from the beginning, right? So I guess the story probably starts like everybody else's story. I was 16 and looking to fit in somewhere. So I ended up picking up guitar, I walk past the music room and here's this guy with bloody long hair, with a red and black SG guitar playing Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Classic.
And I'm like, here I am, this dweeby guy that's in doing air cadets and playing rugby league and all the rest of it. And I see this guy and I'm just like, that is the fucking coolest thing I've ever
100%.
seen. And I still remember it to this day. So I got really interested in guitar, and ended up in Townsville and met Michael Fort, and many Thursday nights as 16, 17-year-olds walking stockies. So, Thursday night, late night, right?
Yeah.
And just going into Sanity and seeing all the new music like that was coming out, and Rammstein, and that's the big one that I remember. The marketing for that was phenomenal. And Korn and all the rest of it. And, we started a band back then, and 40 was playing bass at that stage.
Yeah. Actually,
weird lefty ears.
Yes. Just pause for that. What year was that?
That was 98.
98. Because I've known 40 for 20 years this year too. And we were in a band in 2004.
Yeah.
Cool.
He's a little tart, isn't
and
he?
I went to school with 40, had the long hair. Yes. And I still have photos of him in one of the yearbooks. Yeah. They used to do Friday Night Live.
Beautiful, gorgeous, long black hair. Yeah.
And he was a bassist at that point.
Yeah.
Now he's a phenomenal drummer.
He is.
Who can still play bass, but he was a bassist. But that's cool. So
You get more chicks as a drummer or something.
I can't
remember why he switched over. But anyway.
I can't remember either. But good old 40. Yeah.
So, full circle. 40 now helps us out with the drums in the band as well, which is amazing. Now, there's a whole story behind that. Dino's not out of the band. It's okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, that started my musical journey, and I lived in Victoria for a while and played in a lot of metal bands and stuff like that. So, I grew up with that new metal kind of phase. There was a lot of Sepultura, there was a lot of Fear Factory, all of those guys, Static X. It was really, really grind and rhythm driven. And it was such a unique scene down there that I found it ridiculously clicky, and it was so much fighting and infighting. Like it was almost it was a dick measuring competition. Who was the better band? Who was the better guitar player? Who was this and who was this? And there was no camaraderie about it. Supporting your mates again. I guess we go back to episode 1 here. I want my friends to succeed because if they're being successful, that's going to drive me to be successful as well. Surrounding yourself with those good quality people. I kind of fell out of love with being in a metal band. Like, don't get me wrong, I still love my metal and stuff like that. Probably, I don't really follow the newer stuff that's coming through, but the classic stuff, I'm definitely down for it. Yeah. I kind of made the choice, and I did that whole musical journey of what do I like as a musician, and I went through this whole big journey and settled back in on what I grew up listening to with my dad, and I'm back on that whole dad connection again. And we used to go on car trips, and we were listening to ZZ Top and Creedence and AC/DC and Skyhooks and this kind of stuff, and Prince and Queen. Like it wasn't metal at all, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I really, really enjoyed ZZ Top. Yeah. And so, I went back looking at all the different genres of music that I like, and I landed on The Living End. And there was this amazing Australian band that had these characteristics of AC/DC, had this weird double bass thing that I'd never seen before, playing punk, and I've always had a soft spot for the punk as well. Yeah. And the guitar player was fucking incredible. Yeah. So, it was kind of like, as a guitar player, because I didn't sing in those days, but I was a guitar player, and I was like, as a guitar player, you want to follow a band or be interested in a band where, you enjoy playing the stuff and it's a challenge. It's not just strumming chords. If, for example, if I was listening to Fear Factory or Static X, for me, there wasn't really a big challenge in playing that kind of music, but to play the stuff that Chris Cheney was playing was, holy shit, like this is going to take some practice and some work. That kind of led me down a whole different pathway of playing acoustic guitar, and I did a lot of Tommy Emmanuel studies and stuff like that as well. And then that kind of led into this rockabilly era where I was like, well, I like rock, and I like AC/DC, and I love ZZ Top, and I love Creedence, and I love The Living End, and I love Tommy Emmanuel. And then, you start to get in, where was Tommy Emmanuel getting his influences from? And then suddenly this whole big web appeared of this untapped genre that I'd never been involved in before. Yeah. So I found myself distancing from the metal guys and whatnot, and got a haircut. He's cut his hair off. It's Metallica. Sell out, right? I moved away from those kind of guitars and moved into Gretsch guitars and stuff like that. And then I tried to put a band together in Victoria, and I just couldn't find people that had the same drive, the same mentality, that wanted to put in the hard yards, the effort and whatnot. So I did it as a solo artist for a little while. I did a little bit of a one-man band thing before one-man bands were really a thing. And I was playing a lot of those rockabilly songs, and I toured around quite a lot. Like I did a lot of solo touring, a lot of driving. So lots of shows in Melbourne, a lot in Adelaide, lots in Bendigo, so on and so forth. And then, my dad got sick, and I made the choice, I think it's time I need to come back to Townsville and spend some time with my dad. So when I came back up here, I ended up working in the music shop here at Arnie's, and kind of found that drive again where I was like, you know what, I think I want to do a band. Yeah. So I was teaching guitar and, teaching beginners and advanced guys how to play and whatnot. And then I kind of got that itch again, and it all came about from Dean Gilboy. He actually started that itch for me. So all of this is his fault. So
fuck you, Dean. I'm broke because of you.
Well, I was broke before that, but all the pain since then's your fault, right? So if anyone wants to blame anyone, hate mail, deangilboy.com. Anyway, so I love you, man. You know that. Anyway, so he was in the music shop, and he had he had a similar complaint. He was like, I'm 17 and 18 years old. So there's a 10-year age gap between Dean and I. So I'm 28 years old. He's 18, and we're working in the music shop. And he says to me, every guy wants to jam, wants to be in a band, and all the bands, they just want to play metal. They want to play, Dream Theater, or they want to play Metallica, or they want to play this, they want to play that. And he was like, I just want to play something different. Now, he's a mad Chili Peppers fan, huge Chili Peppers fan. And I was like, well, I got an idea. And I pitched him the idea, and he thought it was great. So, here I am, got this 18-year-old into the band. I'm picking him up, picking his drums up and bringing him to band practice and stuff again. And then we just kind of stuck with it. And we picked up a local bass player, Peter Jensen, as well. And he joined us in the first incarnation of the band, which was the Rockefellers initially to start with. And it was really traditional rockabilly stuff. So, lots of slow, really catered for the rock and roll dances and so on and so forth. And it was okay. It was okay. Wasn't really being true to ourselves, but it was okay. Yeah. And then, Peter decided to move to Melbourne. So we were like, okay, well, that's the end of that. And that was fun. So that lasted for about 12 months. And we had a good list of songs and so on and so forth, but no real originals or anything like that. And then same thing happened, a couple of months go past, run into Sean Butcher. And then I'm like, well, hey, I'm kind of feeling the itch again. So I contact Dino, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm kind of feeling this again. Are you interested in kicking the ball off? And we were still mates. Like, it wasn't like a breakup relationship. We were like, oh, well, we're not in a band together anymore, so we can't talk. We were still friends, but it was just kind of like, well, we don't have a bass player anymore. So, so we would still talk shit and all the rest of it. And then I said, I've got this guy. How about we have a look at it and see how it goes. So the first introduction to Sean Butcher was like, okay, so I don't know you. The best way to get to know you is let's get fucked up. So we bought a shit ton of alcohol, and we started drinking, and it was just the two of us. It was like it was a date. It was really weird, right? So we put on all this music, and I got to know his musical taste, his musical genres, his personality, what he was like when he was drunk, and he turned into an amazing friend. Not always the best influence, but
hey, sorry, just to put a little sorry, Jesus. I put a little bit of perspective on that. Jesus. Speak words, please, Jay. Is that alcohol always seems to bring out the natural inside of you, right?
It's that conversation lubricant, okay? I use the same thing when when we're talking about young people. Like, it was an awkward situation where I've got this guy, I don't know him, could be serial killer. He looks like a serial killer. And it was just an easy way to get to know someone. You relax, you get comfortable, so on and so forth. So it comes back down to our band was built off not necessarily people that could play their instrument, but it was, and don't get me wrong, Dean is an amazing drummer. I can play okay, and Butcher is an amazing bass player now, but he wasn't at the start though. Mm-hmm. But it was more along, we need to get a group of people together that enjoys hanging out together. Yeah. Because if you've got a group of people that you want to spend time with and that you want to be friends with and you want to make music with, then the byproduct is you're going to have fun. Yeah. And I think so many people forget why you're in a band for. You're in a band to be fun. Like, I know that we're not going to be rich and famous and we're not going to have a number one hit or anything like that, but it's fun. It's something my 16-year-old self always wanted. Yeah. And I'm very, very thankful that we've been able to stick at it for as long as we have. There's been a few inclinations in what we've done and so on and so forth, but for the most part, it's still the same three jackasses kicking it, right? So, I spent a lot of time, like I hit Sean with the objective straight up. Like, if you're in, you're in. I need 100% commitment. Yeah. Right. Same thing. I should have used that on a lot of my past relationships. But anyway, I said, like, if you're in, you're in. And he said, I'm in. And he came around my place like 3 nights a week and he learned how to play the double bass. Like, I was teaching guitar. So I was like, well, I can teach you what I know. So I would do research on how to play the double bass and then I would teach him how to do it.
The double bass for everyone at home is the stand-up. The big cello looking
obviously,
bass. If you've seen the Living End film clips, and you'll know the one. So
it stands out. It's a hell of a thing to have on stage.
Big bloody thing. Yeah.
A lot of effort's gone into the sound of that bad boy because that was a nightmare to get pickups, and we had so many.
He's thrashed that thing too. Jumps all over it.
Yeah. Look,
I see you.
A few
Shawnee.
of them have been broken.
I see what you've done to that thing.
Yeah, I've got to put my hand up. I've gone through it a couple of times as well. He lets me stand on it. But it's been a lot of hard work and a long road, right? So he put the effort in right from the word go, and he is just a workhorse, a trooper, and his playing is a testament to his ability to just not give up. Yeah. To give you an idea on that, we were playing together, but we'd only had like little shows, whether it's half an hour or whatnot, and we finally got this amazing opportunity. And I'm talking like, as a band, we'd only been playing together for about 6 or 12 months. Mm. So Sean realistically had only been playing the bass for 6 or 12 months, you know what I mean? So, he doesn't have the years behind him that Dean had because, Dean come from a family of musicians, and I'd been playing since I was 16. So, we'd come from other bands and so on and so forth, but this was Sean's first proper band. Yeah. We got this amazing opportunity to go up to Cairns, and it was part of a sideshow festival. So it was like ladies with snakes and topless barmaids and sideshow alley, like freak shows, and like magicians and all this kind of stuff. And they were like, we want some bands. We want, this rockabilly band would be amazing to put on there. Yeah. So, we got the opportunity to go and do that. And they booked us for 3 shows. And then we ended up getting another 2 shows on the side, which were like punkier shows. So our next incarnation of the band was the Koffin Rockers, by the way. And the whole idea of going with the Koffin was to be a bit more harder and a bit more true to our roots, which is that rock punk era, which kind of starts to lead back into the Living End stuff, which is, why so many people compare us. They're like, well, I don't know if you can compare, but they're like, oh, double bass and Gretsch guitar, Living End. Yeah, it's going to happen, right? But we grew up listening to Green Day and Blink and Pennywise and Body Jar and Jebediah and all these bands. Like it, so it was just natural. Yep. So harder name. We're starting to play harder songs. We get up to Cairns and it's 5 shows over 3 days. Yeah, and I look back at it now and it's the same thing. It's that whole journey thing. I look back and I go, oh, piece of piss. It was only 5 hours. That'd be great. But at the time we were like, holy shit, we're into it. And the second show in, Sean slaps the bass. So the whole idea of that is he's playing the double bass upright as such, and he slaps the strings, grabs them and pulls the strings off. So you're rubbing your fingers over the steel strings the entire time. Well, he takes the fingertips off his fingers. And I mean, like throwing blood, kind of taking the fingertips off. Yep. 2nd show out of 5. Oof. Yep. So the trooper that he is, we now get to coming up with remedies to try and help him play through the rest of the songs, the rest of the shows, because we same thing. We're a band of our word. If we say we're going to play, we're going to play. Yeah. And so we end up with Band-Aids around them and they come off. And then obviously he's now back to smashing on those open blisters.
Yep.
Super glue.
Yep.
He didn't like that.
I bet he didn't.
And then like super glue with Band-Aids. And so we ended up making it through, and the very last show was a bit of a catastrophe, not on our behalf, but the organisers, they it kind of had some electrical issues and whatnot, where there was some swinging light bulbs and it wasn't planned. None of this, all part of the show stuff. So they came up to us, like we finally played through the 5 hours, like the 5 shows, and we're like, thank fuck, like we're getting out of here. We're going to jump in the bus, or we're in the band van, and we're going back to Townsville. We've all had enough. We're tired. We've been drinking for 3 days. We haven't slept. Like we stink. Like let's get out of here. And this is like rookie being in a band. We're on tour for the first time.
Yeah.
So many lessons we've learnt since then.
Yeah.
And then the promoter comes up to us and says, look, can you play a couple more songs while we sort this stuff out? We will give you like X amount of money. And I've turned around to the boys and I'm like, we've played all our songs. So, I mean, we can play a couple of the same songs again, I suppose. And she's like, I don't care. I will pay you. I'll give you cash right now. And I've turned to the boys and Dino's like, sure, why not? And Butcher is like
super glued hands still. Please don't make me do it.
Please no. I don't want to do it anymore. But the trooper he is, he commits to it and goes through it. And
good on him.
We end up getting two encore callbacks.
Wow.
And he goes through the whole thing, and that bad that he's sitting in the van just like this, and there's just blood, no fingertips, and he couldn't do anything with his hands, so he gets back home, goes to work, and all the rest of it. I had the question on, how are you wiping your ass, man? Because that was it must have been so savage. But that's the kind of person he is. It's that kind of commitment that's got him to where he is now, where he's such a great, tasty little bass player. It's all commendable to his efforts. Someone that picks the bass up so late in life and then just smashes into it. Great, really reliable in it. And, suddenly you've got myself and Dean, and then this third person that comes in, and it was the missing piece. It was the person that was like committed and was in it for the right reasons and didn't have an ego and was about the friendship and all the rest of it. And it kind of started to be this little gang, or this little footy team, if you will, where, suddenly you've got 3 guys that are becoming best mates and we're sharing these amazing adventures. So time starts to pass then, and we start to get some original songs together.
Love it.
And the original songs are they're pretty cliche. Like they're drinking music, and because that's what we're about. We wanted to play live, and we wanted to play in dingy pubs that we used to go to when we were 18 and watch these cool bands. So, they were talking about, seeing cute girls and riding in fast cars and dancing and, so stuff that still pretty 50s rockabilly stuff, but it was a bit more high octane for us.
Yeah.
So that was our first 5-track EP. That was these guys, and that was recorded with Luke Green, Luke Shredder.
Yeah.
So,
Luke,
big shout out to Shredder.
Yeah.
Absolute champion guy. And same thing, supporting local, which we're that DUI band. So everything we do is off our own terms, and we're doing it not because we want to be rich and famous, but we're doing these things because, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we made an album? And that's where it all comes from. Yeah. And, wouldn't it be cool if we went and did this gig up in Cairns? And that's where it comes from. It's not anything else. It's 100% self-serving. So, we recorded that and then we released it out to the world. And this is, Facebook days and so on and so forth. Yep. And it did really well.
Nice.
Not like extremely well where, you got 10,000 $10,000 in your bank or something like that. But it started to get some traction, and people were like, well, this is different. And it's very different for Townsville. Like, it's not every day that you're going to have a band that's got a double bass in Townsville. Like, that's the stuff you see in Melbourne, not Townsville.
Yeah.
So straight away we were quite unique. We had that, that wow factor, I guess.
Yeah.
And we were still down that alley of trying to play hard, and we played those 1 hour shows where we were just like, not taking any names and just absolutely kicking it out and climbing all over the double bass and throwing shit around. It was real punk attitude.
Yeah.
And then we released our second EP on top of that, which was a little bit more horror orientated, in and around more of a concept album to go, you know, our first one was all happy beans and cars and women. Like, what would it be if we went a bit more ghoulish?
Yeah.
And we kind of came up with this story about a guy, and it was a bunch of events that this guy went through, and he was a serial killer.
Yeah.
Right? So, you write about someone that's a serial killer. So, yeah, it talks about, you know, what kind of a fucked up guy he was, how he was preying on people and then, you know, killing people, and then what he was doing with bodies and stuff like that, but tried to make it in a real fun, tongue-in-cheek kind of way.
Yeah.
But then in with all those rockabilly undertones, which is, you know, most people might recognize that if they are familiar with the genre as like a psychobilly or a horrorbilly kind of thing. So we started to delve into that kind of area and put it out there to see how it went.
I love that.
And it went okay. Same thing again. And we got, when I say it went okay, we start to get more offers from different venues, more offers for different festivals, more offers from different towns and cities. And then when we go to approach these different venues and say, hey, look, we'd love to play here, they listen to our stuff and they go, oh, well, these guys have got something decent recorded. Cool. Yeah. They're serious. They're not just a garage band. And yet again, it comes from, we had the conversation, wouldn't it be amazing if we played in Melbourne? I'm like, well, how do we do that?
Yeah.
Well, let's fucking find out and let's go and do it. And we do it off our own backs. Like, we had to pay for our own flights to get down there and stuff. But like, we're going on a holiday with our mates.
Yeah.
It's a boys trip away. Like, so many people do that anyway, but we're going to go down there and play some music and meet some cool people. It's fucking rad. This all culminated with a gig in Melbourne. We played one show one night with a punk band. It was fucking amazing. It was awesome. And then we played the second show, and the second show was at a more of a rockabilly venue. And they had two bands on that night, and it was the first time we were ever pulled from stage. And that's a really humbling experience if you've ever had that happen before. And not that we were playing bad, but they were after a specific type of music that we weren't doing. So we were playing a bit more of the harder two-step rockabilly stuff. They wanted a bit more of the waltz.
Yes.
So they just literally pulled us from the stage, and you know, I've got all my friends and family there that live down in Melbourne watching, and then we're like, okay, well, we've got one song left. Sorry. We played for 30 minutes and that's the end of it. So we had a big discussion outside about, you know, this fucking sucks. So what do we do? So I said, I think we need to learn how to play for different crowds. We need to learn how, when I say crowds, I mean different people, right? Let's face it, at that stage, we weren't really playing for crowds. And I was like, well, you know, I've got this idea, and the idea is I'd like to go back and let's learn some more modern songs in a rockabilly tradition, like rockabilly fashion. So, you know, we were learning Bon Jovi and all this different stuff, Chili Peppers and all the rest of it, and putting a rockabilly spin on it. And then really taking the time to slow it down, clean it up, and think about who we're playing for, and you know, okay, well, this is the type of clientele, we're going to play this style. And then if we play a punk show, well, we can play like this now. And suddenly the band became really dynamic.
I was going to say that sounds very dynamic. I like that.
It was like being in 3 or 4 different bands in the one band. So you become very versatile with how you play. Like, you can bring in that really Tommy Emmanuel, Chet Atkins finger picking stuff for some stuff, and then at the next gig you're thrashing it out like you're in a punk band. Like, it was really, really cool. Took a lot of hard work, and same thing. The boys were super committed. I was super committed, and we went into the rehearsal room and we just hit it out week after week, consistency, week after week after week after week, to the point where, you know, we were trying to keep the practices professional. So we wouldn't have 3 or 4 hour practices. We'd go in, we'd hit it out for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, pack up, go home. So we were in there, we're working, boom, we're out for it. That then culminated with the Early Beach Music Festival, and where we took this new mindset down there, and it was a huge success.
Love that.
Huge success, because you got a lot of people that aren't familiar with rockabilly, and not a huge, we're playing at 12 o'clock in the day, and you're not going to go out there and rip out a gothabilly set of zombie songs, and you're playing like full distorted guitars and all the rest of it. So we wound it all back, and it was ridiculously successful. And suddenly the Facebook numbers start to grow, and the sales start to grow, and everything starts to look really good on paper. And then, we start reaching out to these different festivals, and they're looking at it going, well, we see the live footage and we see this, we really want you on board. That gives us then the opportunity to start putting our original music out there a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we kept down that avenue of obviously trying to push the original music, and then keeping this covers thing in the background as well. So that was then turned into a way to fund what we were doing. So we'd go and play all these cover shows, and this will be a surprise to a lot of people, but we put it into the band kitty. We didn't get paid because how awesome is it that we get to go and play a show, and if we put the money into a band kitty, then we get to go and do more cool shit.
100%.
So we were playing quite frequently, and then we'd make money from shows, and then that'd pay for T-shirts, and then suddenly you'd sell a heap of T-shirts, and people are walking around with T-shirts, or you'd pay for recording, and it doesn't actually come out of your back pocket. You're playing a gig, you're working, but it's funding the band. Like
100%.
You're working as a tax write-off, so to speak. Negative gearing.
100%.
So we kept doing that in the background, and then suddenly when these amazing support gigs come up, where there's an international artist in Brisbane, and we reach out and we're like, hey, we'd love to do the show, and they're like, fuck yeah. Well, we've got to find a way to get there. Yeah. So we could drive, but we've got the money, we can fly. So we do.
Exactly.
So suddenly we're getting involved in these bigger festivals and these bigger support shows, and it starts to really, really look good. And it purely just comes down to grit and determination and just doing it ourselves. So at this stage, we're still not involving anybody in the process. All the gigs and festivals and everything that we've been able to grab up to even now has come from the hard work behind the scenes. It's Sean and I and Dean just emailing people, calling people, just hustling basically. So we get to that point, and we're playing a lot of rockabilly festivals, so on and so forth, and we're doing quite well. We're going down to Coolangatta, and they're loving it, and we're selling a shit ton of merch, and everything's going really good. And then we had the conversation, that maybe our CDs don't sound like we do live. We have a different persona live. So we went back in and we recorded a 5-track EP again, but just of Australian cover songs. And we called that bad boy, I've got to get this correct now because it's quite the name. It is the the VK Commodore factory standard audio cassette. And it has a hand-drawn picture of the best VK Commodore you've ever seen. It's got wings, spikes on the tires, it has flamethrowers.
Fully sick.
Freaking amazing, right? It is awesome, right? And what we did, the idea was we're going to get in there, we're going to turn the mics on, we're just going to play. No takes, no nothing, no cuts.
Just live.
We're just going to play.
Studio.
And we did. So, and that's what that is. And I'm really, really proud of it because that's what we sound like. I love that. That's what we sound like. And like even the solos are improvised and shit like that. And I sit there going, get fucked. Like, I love that. Where did you pull that from? That's just crazy. But at that time, we were playing so much and practicing so much. It was just easy.
Yeah.
So then we put that out there as well. And that started to generate some interest and stuff. So that's when things started to pick up quite well for us with Hotter Than Hell and some other big festivals that started to come through where we started to, now we're clicking heels with, Killing Heidi and Grinspoon and Jebediah and Area 7 and all of these bands that I 16-year-old me's going, holy shit, like I'm watching these guys on Recovery and Channel V and I remember the ads for their albums being on TV during the day, and I'm just starting to freak out a little bit going, holy crap, not thinking have we made it, but what an amazing experience that we've now got. And these guys, like every one of those bands, there wasn't one person in any of those bands that were arrogant. They were all super humble. They were all absolutely amazing. They were so welcoming, interested in who we were, where we were coming from.
That's right.
And commended us on our professionalism because obviously we had this idea, and it came from being at different festivals and stuff like that, is to always be professional. When we're on the clock, we're on the clock, which means we're working.
100%.
So if we're networking with people or we're talking to someone that's enjoyed our music, make the time to actually go and sit and talk with them and build the brand.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. And when it came to, getting our gear on stage and getting our gear off stage, we're just the no-name guys from Townsville. So we would make sure that we were set up super quick and super easy. So everything side stage was set. Literally, we didn't have roadies, so we were carrying it on there ourselves.
Yeah.
Everything was all set up, nice and easy package. It was just go plug, plug, plug. And then we were set, literally dial in the guitar amp and away you go.
Yep.
And the best thing about those festivals is, you're running Marshalls and Voxes and Fenders. So you just, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So really easy to get a sound. So, we took that on board to make sure that we were on stage quick, give the sound guys plenty of opportunity to tune us in, and then away we went.
Yeah.
And then our punk attitude would come out, especially at those Hotter Than Hell shows where it was just balls to the wall, where we just hit it as hard as we possibly could.
Yeah.
And then the show would finish and we're dripping with sweat, and we'd take that same attitude to get the fuck off stage as well, because the next band's coming up.
Yep.
So pack your stuff up. It doesn't need to be pretty. Get off.
Yep.
Make room for the next guys to get on there. Be respectful to all the other musicians, because we're all here doing a job.
That's right. Yeah.
And your best mate's the sound guy. I mean, they can make you sound like shit, or they can 100%. Make you amazing.
Yeah.
So we got to that point. Now, I guess probably the Hotter Than Hell thing came off the back of Europe.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to backtrack a little bit here, because the Hotter Than Hell festival was quite amazing. I don't know if you've seen the posters and stuff, but we got multiple shows, and it was Eskimo Joe and, like anybody from the 90s, 2000 area that were kicking is basically who was there. So we get back to before the Hotter Than Hell stuff. So we're probably back in about 2017. And Sean and I were just talking about, what we wanted from the band and so on and so forth. And this was around about the time where 40 lived in Europe.
Yeah.
And he came back and would stay at my house, and he was always saying how cheap the flights were. And I just got to thinking, and I'm like, how cheap?
Yeah.
Like the band's making money, like how cheap, right? And he told me, and I was like, well, I wonder. So I went to Sean, and same thing. I made the conversation to him, and I'm like, hey, what are your thoughts on like going to Europe and playing some shows? And he was just like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
like that's ever going to happen. And I'm like, well, we've made some friends when we've been touring around. Like we've made some German friends and so on and so forth. And like they've said it's possible. What are your thoughts? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool. All right. So I went and started doing this big investigation and, talking to people and talking to friends. And it all just comes from friends of friends of friends.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lars and Stefan. I know, German, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, the boys, I started talking to them, and they were like, yeah, we've got a whole crew of guys back in Europe that would be able to hook you up with a run of shows.
Yep.
So we started spitballing ideas and spitballing dates. We initially had it booked for summer, but some things happened. We had to move it to winter.
Cold.
Yeah.
Cold.
100% cold.
Yeah. Proper cold. Not Australia cold, proper cold.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, we got it all done, and it got to the point where we were like, okay, like this is a real possibility here. So, we'd been able to secure a driver in a van. We had all the shows basically penciled in.
Great.
We knew what was going on, what it was going to cost. So I just went back to Sean. I'm like, are we in or are we out? Like, I need an answer. And if we're in, we're fully committed. And he was like, fuck it, let's just do it.
Yeah.
So, went to Dino, and I'm like, hey man, like this is the plan. Like I've done all this work. What do you think? And he's like, okay, let's do it. Right.
Yeah.
So we started pulling the trigger on it. And, the whole idea of this was if we could, get there, if we could pay for our own flights there, everything would be taken care of from there. So that's what we did. We hustled. We went back into the cover bands. We started playing. And, we were playing sometimes twice a week. It was definitely 3 times a month, trying to get the funds together and just practicing. We would go and practice our original set, and I'd like to think that we had it tight. I've seen some videos before we left for Europe, and I'm pretty proud of the boys. It was like pretty friggin' amazing, right? And it just comes down to hours in the chair.
Yeah, 100%.
So we got all the flights together, we booked it, and then we left. That was it. And it was 21 days, 17 shows.
Yep.
So it was a long haul.
Yep.
It's big. That's big.
That
a lot of people
is,
don't think that is, but it is big because it's a lot of travel and it's a lot of gigs, and it's not the shows that fatigue you. It's the travel and the fact that you have to always be on the ball. When I say always on the ball, you're like, well, where am I getting food from? Yep. Where can I sleep? Where can I relax? What's going on now? And even if there is rest time, you're on a deadline. You can rest for 2 hours, so you don't really relax.
Yep.
So fatigue hit hard along with the cold weather.
Yep.
But it was absolutely amazing over there. Like it was just, I wouldn't say once in a lifetime experience because we're back on the road again. But it was incredible. And the tour was self-funded, and we were making enough money at shows to cover costs while we were over there. So the tour cost us flights.
Yeah.
So here we are. And if we take a step back for a second, we've got 4 mates. So 40 was over there. He came with us on the tour as well, which is awesome. Yeah. So we've got 4 mates that have been mates for a shitload, and suddenly we're in Europe together.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude.
Right, it's a boys trip, man. Right? It's a boys trip now, right?
Yeah.
So and the booze is cheap, and away we go. And suddenly everywhere we're going, we're being treated like royalty. So you know, we're the band from Australia. We're not just guys from Townsville anymore. We're from Australia.
Yeah.
You know, and we were playing a show in Munich, and suddenly this guy rocks up and he's like, I saw that you guys were from Australia. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool. And then I saw you from Townsville. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I'm from fucking Townsville. Get the fuck out of here. So, yeah, there was a lot of Australian songs dropped that night, and he had the fucking best time. Nice. I'm sure the Germans didn't know what the fuck was happening, but they loved it anyway. So, but yeah, so we ended up not staying in hotels. We were staying in people's houses. So we did get a couple of hotels and whatnot throughout. But for the most part, we were couch surfing is what we were doing. Yep. You know, you look at any band of substance, and normally their first overseas tour is, you know, they're sleeping in buses and shit like that. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I didn't want to stay in a hotel. I wanted to stay with people and to, you know, experience what they do, like, and eat what they eat, and, you know, go to Germany,
live a normal life like they would live every day.
Yeah. Because, you know, we don't get that here. We live like Australians, you know, multicultural and all the rest of it. But I don't know what's going on. And you know, so of course we took some Vegemite over, much to everybody's disgust, but you know, we were like, take it out with a tablespoon.
Yeah, mate. 100%.
Yeah. And I guess this probably leads us back into what we were talking about earlier, which was the culture shock that then we were able to experience, because you know, the first night that we were there, we were in a rumpus room, and we had the beds all set up and everything like that. And there's lots of photos up because, you know, most people have photos up in their house, and just start looking around the photos and stuff. And we're like, holy shit, like there's a guy in a full German uniform on that photo on the wall. And from an Australian point of view, you're like, holy shit, you can't have that up there.
Yeah. Yeah. A German war uniform.
Yeah.
Nazis.
Yeah. Like full, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it was the German military, which is different to the Nazis, obviously. Yep. But, you know, still quite confronting, because, you know, we all grew up with Anzacs, right? So, you know, I've seen my great granddad's war stuff, and you don't think anything of it, because Australian soldiers, Anzac, slouch hat, all good to go, right?
Yep.
But then to see the other side of the coin, where you've got these German people whose grandparents served in the war, and that's their family photo. Yeah. And you're like, oh, wow, shit just got real.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Yeah. So suddenly you're in this other part of the world where it's not just stories on a video. Like, these were real people with real lives, with real families. And, you know, who knows what they were involved in over there, because, you know, obviously we weren't there. But now to be staying in someone's house where they're proud of their uncle or, you know, their grandparent or something like that. I'm not saying he was a Nazi. I'm not saying that at all. You know, Nazis can fuck off. That's the simple slogan with the punk world and the rockabilly world, right? But he was, you know, obviously proud of his heritage and stuff like that. So it was quite interesting, and we got lots of those kind of experiences as we went through, where you're now staying with people and you're getting exposed to this kind of culture. like the food and everything like that.
Yeah.
But so we started off in Western Germany, which is quite, if anyone's familiar with the end of World War II, they know that Germany was split in half. You had West and you had East, and then Berlin, which was in the East, was separated in half as well. So that's henceforth where the Berlin Wall came from. So a lot of people trying to get out of East Germany had to get into West Berlin and then had to be flown to West Germany. So real crazy shit. So a bit of a World War II buff here. Sorry about that.
That's all right. It's good.
So, so we're in Western Germany for the start of the tour, and it was really cool. Like, there was shops were great, roads were great, people were awesome. Everyone had a nice car in their driveway. Everything was sweet. And then we started to go east.
Yeah.
And then that's where everything changed. So on our way to Eastern Germany, we're heading to Chemnitz in Eastern Germany, and we're part of the communism section of Germany now, and the buildings start to all look the same.
Mm-hmm.
The cars don't look great.
Yep.
Roads still good, but you can start to see it's that, like, not poverty, but you can start to see the socioeconomic change here.
Yep.
And we're heading into Chemnitz, and we hear on the radio that, they're telling people to stay in their homes because there's right-wing Nazi marches coming through, and they were talking about, I believe at this time they were talking about the Syrian refugees coming through. So suddenly in Eastern Germany, you had this rise of people that were just not interested in multiculturalism whatsoever. And here we are, 4 dickheads from Australia playing in a rockabilly band, just drinking beer and experiencing the world. Now suddenly we're moving into some real shit.
Yeah.
That all dissipated, and we got to the show and we're like, okay, cool, what the fuck's this? And it looks like a derelict old apartment building.
Yeah.
We later found out that it was actually a squatter's den.
Yep.
So no one was meant to be there. They somehow jerry-rigged the electricity, and they were burning like paper logs and stuff like that. And we played downstairs. We played to donations that night. We actually we did pretty good.
Nice.
So we made some money, and it was amazing. Like, and we had dinner with them that night, and a lot of the stuff came from gardens, so it wasn't from shops. So suddenly you start to experience this really cool shit. Everything smelled of cigarettes, which was a huge big culture shock for us in Australia. And then, so the boys, Dino and 40, were like, okay, well, we're going to go down to MICK'S and get a feed. They wanted they wanted something
they
to
wanted
make them
a taste
feel,
of Australia. Yeah.
did, right? So a bit of the old Dirty Ronnie.
I haven't heard that in a long while.
So they're like, give me a greasy burger. So they cruise off down the road, and it's like a couple of blocks away, and they come past like this barricade, and there's like police officers all in the riot gear and stuff. And typical Australian fashion, the boys just wander through. Like, we never experienced anything like that here. And the cops try to tell us to stop. We're like, yeah, okay, well, yeah, righto, mate. And away you keep going. Like, nothing bad ever happens here, right? So they walk through and then find out later that it's the same thing. Like, there was threats of a bomb, and it was the right wing that was rising up about the Syrian refugees and stuff again. And we were like, holy shit, where are we? Like, this is getting real.
Yeah.
So we took it on the chin and we jumped back in the bus and away we go. So
you got your MICK'S.
Yeah, we've got MICK'S and we've got the beer and the bus and away we go. We're off to the next show. Like, we've got shows to meet. And we did like some unique shows in Eastern Germany where we were played at a biker club where they built the stage for us.
Yeah.
And it was really just the biker members there who watch us, which is, bikers and their wives and their kids. Same thing. Absolutely amazing. They fed us, they beered us, anything we wanted, we were royalty just for being there. They paid us and away we went. So we're playing all these venues, the same kind of venues that we'd play here in Australia, but we're doing it in Europe. So, it looks amazing on paper, but and it is amazing, but it's dirty and gritty, and it's getting your hands filthy and all the rest.
Yeah.
One of the places we played in Berlin, the guys didn't have a music license, so they were like, you can play for 45 minutes, but you have to stop.
Yeah.
And if you see a police officer come in, turn off everything, right down, leave.
Yeah.
Like, because he was like, oh, we'll get fined, big money. So it was really weird. So we were like, okay, cool. He's like, don't set up yet. okay, set up. And we set up and then we play. And he's like, okay, cool, back down. and the weirdest part about that show, so we're tucked into this little corner and Dean doesn't have a drum through a stool. He's sitting on the bench in the pub playing. And we're just ripping it out. And we're playing our originals and there's people in the pub singing along.
Wow.
And we were like,
they knew your music.
They knew. And I'm like, where the fuck? Who? How? What? And this place in Berlin, apparently, you know, they're very club based over there. So a lot of venues have like a social aspect to them. So when the venue had advertised us, the members or the people that frequent the bar had done the research and then come in and enjoyed the music.
Nice. Yeah.
So everywhere we went, it was a lot of that. It was a lot of, well, this is this club and they will turn up and they will support it. Same thing in Osnabrück.
Awesome.
A whole club, to the point where they cooked for us and no one else in the club was allowed to eat until the band ate.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
that's cool.
You know, one of the guys is like, I'm not real hungry. And then one of the ladies is like, you will eat. Because no one else eats until you eat. So eat, they're hungry. So we're in it, right? So we're getting towards the end of the tour now. So we've gone through Western Germany. We're starting to head east now. So we're heading over into Czech Republic and over into Poland as well. So we end up playing in a uni club that was the last show was in Prague, which is amazing, right? Never Tear Us Apart, the old INSTA.
Yeah.
We played in a uni club there. That was absolutely amazing. But by that stage, I'd lost my voice. So we'd practiced so much that Dean he sang 3/4 of the last show.
From behind the kit.
From behind the drum kit.
Yeah.
So, you know, the cold weather and then we were all sick and I'd sung 17 shows in a row and drinking, not being healthy, not being fit, and it just caught up with me. But he picked it up and smashed it out. Luckily, no one knew who we were, so it was all good, right? We were just the guys from Australia, so no one knew any different. But we ended up in Poland at, I think it was the second last show, and that was a whole different experience again. That was where the people were just so friendly and so nice, and they were trying to bend over backwards to try and help you because they very rarely get people from outside of the eastern part of Europe to come over. Yeah. So the fact that they've got this Australian band there was a huge, big deal for them. Great. So, you know, we absolutely enjoyed the hell out of that. And
love that, man.
That was the whole tour. So we came back and then obviously the byproduct of we're now an international touring band.
Yeah. Legit,
It's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly we can now approach all these big festivals with, we've gone overseas and it's all, we've just done it ourselves. And any band here in Townsville can do it. Like, I believe the Late November guys they've gone to Japan. Like, anyone can do it. It's only yourself stopping you from doing it. And we just did it. And then obviously COVID happened. Around the COVID idea, we were thinking about moving away from the rockabilly idea. So we did a name change to the band.
You guys changed the name at some point too.
So moved to a bit more of a universal name that could be, you know, didn't have any connotations to rockabilly to it. And we did a full length album with a lot of tracks that were very punk and rock oriented. And the film clip, to Boring.
Good work.
That we dropped that just before COVID happened, and so the combination of COVID and then the name change, it didn't pan out for us.
Damn.
Yeah. It just kind of, you know, we had a lot of things in the works. You know, we were talking to a national booker and there was some distribution talks, and we were in tight with a few really good festivals and everything like that. So we had, like, things were starting to move. We were like, holy shit, like, it's to the point now where we could, like, maybe go to part-time jobs and start really looking at doing music as a full-time job here. Holy shit. And then COVID happened and it all just Fugazi, it all just went away, right? Yeah. And then so that combination with the mental health and everything like that, that's where it really stuck. So with the band and stuff, I guess after my separation and then my mental health issues, I said to the boys, you know, and they were amazing through the whole thing. You know, I couldn't have asked for a better set of mates or better group of mates. Yeah. I'm not sure who I am as a person anymore because, you know, I knew who I was, but I'm not that person anymore. So, and I didn't know if music had a part in my life anymore. Yeah. I knew my friends did, but I didn't know about music. So it took me a long time to find that again. And then when I did find it, I said to the boys, if I do music again, it's got to be fun again. It can't be serious. I don't want to do, because the Van Keys was very serious, and we were starting to really amp up. I said,
the Van Keys?
The Van Keys.
That's what you changed your name to? Yeah, cool.
So, you know, that was very serious. We were taking ourselves seriously. We were starting to act more like those bands, like, you know, the Killing Heidies and all that kind of stuff. We're trying to get taken very seriously to really get noticed. And then, you know, COVID happened, and we were like, okay, well, I said, if we're going to do it again, it's got to be fun. I want it to be fun again. I want it to be three mates having fun, dick and fart jokes, and make it about us again. Fuck what everybody else is doing. Let's just make it about us. And then we started, and it was fun. So we did another album, which is called Go Kart Go. If you look at the spelling,
awesome name.
if you look at the spelling, it's I'll leave it open to you.
You can just blame it on Butcher and go, yeah, he had a few drinks, and that's the spelling he came up with.
Yeah, so same thing.
Shawnee.
The whole album covers, you know, based off the Castrol thing, but it says gastro, and it's back to the dick and fart jokes again, right? Totally keen for that. And then it was fun, and we were like, well, maybe we want to do some cover shows. So we started doing some cover shows, and 40 jumped on board, and 40 was like, this is fun. I'm enjoying it as well. So now we've got two drummers. You know, when Dino can do a show, Dino does a show. When 40 can do a show, 40 does a show. So
because Dino's in
he's in Melbourne now.
Yeah. What band's he in?
Area 7. Yeah. So
that's a big deal.
He's their mainstay drummer in Area 7. And he's kicking goals, man. He's an amazing drummer, and he deserves all the recognition he gets, man. He's hustled. He's played a lot of bands up here, and he is just kicking ass down there as well. But the Area 7 show gig's amazing. The last show he played with them, if I'm not mistaken, was at Festival Hall, which was with the Living Ends 25th anniversary of their self-titled album.
Yeah, nice.
And it was sold out, dude.
Yeah.
So and he, the guys from Area 7 asked me to be part of their road crew, their stage manager for that show. Another high school moment for me, just amazing. So, you know, hanging out with the guys from the Living End. I'd met them a heap of times already, but now I'm part of the crew, right? You know, backstage saying hello to them and all that kind of stuff. And being up on stage and, you know, touching the guitars and being there for sound check and not being told to go. But that gig, so Dino is on stage and, you know, there's, I'd like to say, you know, 5,000 people out there, moshing 100% to Dino's drums, and because I'm stage managing and stage support, I'm literally hunched down beside Dino's drums, and he's just, I've got the best video. He turns to me and he just goes, how fucking cool is that? And he looks out and everyone's just moshing to him.
So
and
good.
I'm like, man, I'm so fucking proud of you. That is just amazing.
100%.
So anyway, I'll stop man crushing on Dino now. he doesn't need a boosted ego. So that kind of stuff. So and then, like I said, 40's jumped on board, and he's really enjoying it as well. So we had the same thing on, like, okay, well, why are we playing these shows for? Like, what's our purpose here? What are we doing? Like, we know we're not going to be rich and famous. We're not going to be, you know, we're all old now. We're all in our 40s. Like, what's going on here? And we're like, well, we just want to have fun and experience some cool shit. So we put it up in the air again. Why don't we go overseas again? So we kicked around America. We kicked around Europe again, and then late November went to November.
Japan.
Late November went to Japan, and we were like, well, what about Japan? So we kicked over a few stones and we made some contacts, and next minute we've got 8 shows booked in Japan. So we're like, holy shit! I guess we're going to Japan. So
just on that as well, did you speak to Alex and all the boys about, like, are you playing at a lot of the similar sort of venues that they've played at?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I know that there is a booking agent in Japan that handles most of the venues, but there's so many venues over there. A couple of them are familiar. Like, there's been some other bands that have reached out to me and said, hey, look, you'll love these venues, so on and so forth. So, no, I haven't spoken to those guys. I actually haven't met them.
Okay.
No, I've just seen them online. Dean knows them. Dean's met them. And 40, obviously, but I actually haven't met the guys. So.
Really nice guys. Really nice local guys. As you can clearly hear from, like, you know, even just listening to you, Mick, is like, everyone has this opinion. So we spoke about this a few other podcasts ago, how like people have this opinion that that band members and big bands and stuff, like their heads are just blown up and just they're not normal. It's just normal everyday shit, man. Like you guys are all, you know, everyone's always good. But sorry, the reason why I was going back to late November traveling is because I was going to ask, it'd be interesting to see the camaraderie of those specific venues that have listened to Late November going through their towns, and then if you guys come through as another Aussie band,
another Aussie band from Townsville,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where the fuck's Townsville?
Exactly.
Right?
So then
Powerpuff Girls.
Exactly. Yes. In the New York. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see that camaraderie start to build up, because then obviously, I mean, Townsville, we've just recently had Pink. In the, as we're recording this today, the Pink was here last night and tonight, and like Townsville's starting to make a name for itself again. Obviously, as it has with, you know, plenty of other little bands who have brought up from Townsville. But it'd be so interesting to find out, like, you know, just that camaraderie. Over there as well.
I guess, you know, if you're doing it for the right reason, everyone always says it, and I agree with this as well. You know, if you want to make it, and when I say make it, make music your job. In Townsville originally, with original music, no, you have to go down south. You know, you have to go to Melbourne, because that's where the arts are. So people are more open to hear original music. In Townsville, they want their covers. So you can make it as a cover artist here in Townsville quite well, and you can do okay as an original artist, but to next level it, you've got to go south. Unfortunately, that's how it is. We always knew that, but we had a go doing it from here, and we also remembered that we were, you know, we've all got careers and families and all that kind of stuff, so we are based here. But the fact that the internet is here, we couldn't have done this back in the 90s. You know, it wouldn't have happened. We had to move to Melbourne then, but we could do it from Townsville because we've got the internet and we've got planes, like we've got flights, so we can do that. And you know, going to Japan's easy. We drive to Cairns and then fly to Osaka. You know, we're ready to go. So all of this stuff is just, it's come from grit, perseverance, and just a great bunch of guys. You know, I was lucky enough I'm going to toot my own trumpet here, just because I can, right? I was lucky enough to get endorsed by Gretsch Guitars. So same thing, like I said, all those years ago, I started playing Gretsch Guitars, and I'd always thought, you know, how amazing would it be to be endorsed by a guitar company? So I put the hard work in, and what I did was I went back to the Living End and I learnt every solo from every Living End album. It was 7 albums or something like that. And put it together in video and put it out online. And then I took a photo of my Gretsch collection. So I had a heap of Gretsch guitars, and I played all these, you know, like I was playing, and just reached out to them and said, hey, look, I love your instruments, man. And that was it. I just left it at that. I didn't say, hey, look, please endorse me. I just reached out to him and said, man, look, I love your instruments. Here's a photo of my guitars. Here's me playing. And then their guy in America turned around and said, like, fuck yeah, we love you. We want to send you some shit. So
great work.
They hooked me up with a guitar, and then hooked me up with like a heap of merch as well. That guitar I passed over to Dino's stepdad, so because he really wanted one, I was like, yeah, well, happy to share the love around here. At that stage, I didn't want another guitar. I know, blasphemy, right?
That there is the old excuse. I
didn't want one. I had enough.
I've got enough. I don't need another one.
But anyway, so after COVID and band name changes, and you know, all this stuff's changed. When I was like, okay, well, let's go back and do the Koffin Rockers again. Let's go back and do that rockabilly stuff. I reached back out to Gretsch in America, and they passed me on to Fender Australia, and they upheld my endorsement. So they were able to hook me up with another guitar, and it's kind of reinvigorated the whole playing music. It's fun. It's fun again.
Awesome.
And it's about hanging out with your mates and just having a good time. It's not,
love it.
Not trying to be rich and famous or anything like that. Just have a good time. So that those little things were, and I guess they're probably actually really big things, but enough to kick you in the ass and stuff like that. But like I said, I've got other mates, you know, from here in Townsville that have worked with Maton and got great deals from Maton and stuff like that. So if you don't put yourself out there, you never know. And if a bunch of old guys from Townsville can do that, then imagine what these young guys could do.
You
know, late November. they don't even have to look at what we've done. But if we can do it, imagine what those guys could do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so many great musicians here in Townsville that can do amazing things if they persevere with it and just take a chance.
Yeah, that's right.
And then away they go.
That's right. 100%.
That's inspiring.
It surely is. Man, I'm now processing all of that information and just like, fuck yeah.
What I could add to that too, though, is you guys have done it without ego or
we've tried not to,
but I know like a few bands over the last, say, 5 to 10 years that have this arrogance about them, and they'll headline a couple of their own local gigs and then they walk around like, fuck yeah, but
you've headlined in Townsville, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and
we've done these festivals. We've done these festivals as like openers for festivals.
Yeah,
look great.
You've played with Living End and all these other bands, and these local guys, because they're so young, they just get this arrogance about them, and then wonder why it never works out for them.
Yeah.
And arguably, you could say because they weren't honest with themselves, whereas you guys you were there, you were honest, you knew from the get-go that we're not doing this for money or fame, like we're doing this because we love it.
Yeah.
And there's the key to success. You love something.
Yeah.
You're going to do well at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers, man.
That's it. That's it. Well, I think that this would probably about wrap up this episode. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, I could keep going.
I know.
Can't shut me up.
I think we should get you back.
And I'm the singer, right?
I know, I'm just trying to think, like, there's so much music stuff to talk about. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Well,
you know what I love though? I remember when I was at your house a couple of years ago, you showed me your setup that you did for demo recordings at home.
Yeah.
And it's very much the same as mine, like just a shitty old laptop, shitty old software.
Yep.
And on that one computer with like a couple of shitty leads, there's the start of every great thing that happens. What I mean?
So
like
good.
you don't need
using the notes on your phone.
Yes. Yeah.
Voice recording.
The voice record.
So good.
And then you go back and listen to it, you're like, fuck, that's horrible. You're trying to play the guitar on your phone and just everything sounds like shit, but that's the starting point for
At the time, it was amazing.
Yeah. Do you remember the old Guitar Pro?
I do.
Yeah, that was what I did a lot of my. And before that was Power Tab.
Oh,
I think in
Guitar.
Ultimate Guitar, that's the holy grail.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Song stuff.
Songs, yeah.
Scrolling tabs.
MyTabbook.com.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. So
Yeah.
good.
All the people who are listening who aren't guitarists, like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah. That's crazy. But that's really awesome. That I love to hear, like, especially knowing 40 for 20 years.
Yeah.
I love it that he's doing music again, because that's one dude that has delved in so many different genres of music.
Yeah.
And he used to even sit in on a lot of my old recording sessions with Luke in a couple of bands, just because he loved listening to music and he was just happy to be in the room where people were recording and stuff. So, and
he's an amazing musician. He really is. He can play. But I guess maybe for him, he was looking for something, I guess.
Yeah.
And I hope that he's enjoying what he's doing with us. He says he is, so that's great. But it's that whole carefree attitude. Like, there's no egos.
Yes,
it's okay,
exactly.
Man, just chill.
It.
Like, we're all the same here. Like, and we go and do a gig and we're all chilled. Like, sometimes you get a bit nervous, as you do. You want to be nervous before a show, but hey, if you make a fuck up, it's okay. No one knows.
Yeah.
No one knows. Laugh it off, or look really confused at the bass player. So you just look at Sean and be like, what was that? But as we were talking about before, we play with in-ears. Because we're lazy and we don't like setting up fallbacks. So over the years, we've done many incarnations. We've had the full 2 amps on stage, full fallbacks, and you spend 2 hours packing up after a covers show, to now we can knock it over in about 15 minutes, including all leads rolled up. I think there's 8 XLR cables in our total setup, which is amazing, right? Yeah. So it's all digital, and so there's only subs and speakers out the front. Everything else is all wireless and in-ears. So, you can make those fuck ups on stage and you can whisper into the microphone, and only other guys with the in-ears can hear what you're saying. Everybody else out the front just hears, but those guys are like, man, fuck that up. Yeah, sorry about that voice. Or mid-song need to take a piss.
Exactly.
Piss break.
100%.
That makes it fun, and you're just laughing and just buffoonery and talking shit. And it's that same thing again. You're just sitting around with your mates talking shit, but this time we're playing music. and we're playing at a venue.
Yeah.
But we're still
So
just talking shit with each other.
So good.
I'll leave it with the last one. In that talking shit,
Yeah.
we've got to be so careful because sometimes we get so involved with talking shit with ourselves, we forget to include everybody else that's there listening as well. So we're going to be like, oh, wait. So the story for this one is that
Yeah.
like people are like, we don't get your in joke.
Yeah. But that actually sounds a lot like us. We
Pretty
have a
much.
whole podcast of listeners here.
Yeah.
But that's exactly I mean, obviously, I'm hoping that obviously the listeners that are listening to us now have just been awestruck by the way that I'm guessing both of us. I mean, obviously, Benny, you've been mates with Mick for a while.
Yeah, and I just love listening to the stories. Like,
yeah. But me sitting here, I haven't met you before tonight, and I'm just sitting here. I'm having a ball, man. This is great.
Thanks so much.
And as a
Really appreciate
podcast host, normally I'm the one speaking a lot, and but it's been great just to sit back and listen. And I appreciate your time.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
Really do
sure.
appreciate your time, and it's great to hear all the stories of everything you've been through. And as we even spoke about in the first episode, you know, life is a journey, and time passes, but it takes a lot of consistency over a long period of time to get where you're at. And it's great hearing where you've come from, where you're at now, and it's also fucking awesome to see that you and the mates are just having fun, kicking it around. You're going over to Japan soon.
Yep.
And
I'm going to eat so much ramen.
100%, dude.
I still have to find time to exercise. So that's going to be interesting.
oh,
right?
dude, you'll be able to push-ups and sit-ups.
Just walk everywhere, man. I've been. Have you been to Japan yet?
Yeah, I have.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
You'll be walking everywhere. I know that, but still,
so much fun.
so much ramen.
It is so good. Man, it's so cheap too. Ramen over there.
Yeah.
It's so cheap. That's awesome.
Yeah. Last topic, favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. You can't finish a boys podcast without a bit of Arnie talk.
Arnie.
Top 3.
Oh, okay. All right. So obviously Predator.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love the one-liners in that. That is just one of the best sci-fi movies. It's an action movie that switches halfway through to a sci-fi horror movie. Amazing. Love it. Commando with those one-liners, man.
Yeah.
I know we said them before,
Yeah.
but here's the other one, and this is just because of my childhood. It's Conan the Destroyer.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Old
So
school.
not Barbarian.
Not Barbarian,
The
yeah.
Destroyer. Yeah. So he was just an absolute beast in that.
Yeah.
So
Fuck yeah.
So good, man. Love it.
not too many one-liners in that bad boy, but yeah.
No, it's all good. Oh,
I'm just trying to think when his one-liners started. Like, he really took on that one-liner comical, and he knew he was doing it too.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
what made it so good. I just can't remember like at what point he started really doing that.
I think it was definitely in Commando because they really lent
Commando
into it.
was 85.
They really lent into it in that.
Raw Deal was one he did a few years
Yeah.
beforehand, and I can't remember much about that at all.
Well, even The Running Man. Like
Yeah, 87?
Yeah, I think was that 87 because
Yeah.
there was just so many one-liners in that. Like just
80s one-liners were next level.
Freeze.
What about True Lies? When was that?
Oh no, that's in 90s.
94.
Yeah.
I reckon 94.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I thought it was 92.
Yeah, 94. Predator, 86.
86. Yeah.
I remember us Googling this on the night.
Yeah. We're like,
Yeah.
what started first?
Yeah,
Like, where'd it come
Commando
from?
was 85,
Yeah.
Predator 86, because he had like 3 or 4 that was each in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Running Man,
Yeah.
87, and then 88. I can't remember if he had one in 88, or it might have been 84, 85, 86, 87.
Yeah, something
I'd
like
have to
that.
go back.
I know.
But yeah,
I know
we
his
Googled
first,
it.
Yeah.
I know his first one was Hercules. It was like Hercules in New York or something like that, and he has no dialogue because he can't.
He
Speak
can't speak English? Yeah.
but he was
Yeah.
just like come straight fresh from Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
and he was just completely jacked.
Yes. Yeah.
Fuck
Well,
yeah.
Dazza would be proud of me. I've watched pretty much a majority of all of these
Yeah, old
movies.
Daz would be proud.
Yeah.
So thanks, Dazza.
You're welcome.
All right. All right. I reckon we should wrap this up then. And thank you so much,
Thank
Mick.
you for having me, gentlemen.
As I said,
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mickey.
Yeah, good old Mickey. You know what's actually interesting as well before? We've been speaking about like a Patreon thing that we've been looking at doing. You're familiar with Patreon, yeah. And it's such an interesting topic to talk about, especially in this sort of like content creation artistic world.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to I never want to ask people for money.
Yep.
But it's a part of the nature of of it that people do like what they see and they want to pay money for it.
Yep.
And I was listening to you before talking about how, you guys actually, all the money you get from your gigs, and obviously this is when you're doing gigs and you're doing covers and stuff like that, like obviously the nature of gigging is that you get paid to gig.
Yeah.
And it's not always the case with podcasting and content creation because we always do it off our own backs. But the truth is that you guys did it off your own backs too.
Yeah.
And
I've got an opinion on this one.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, go on.
And I'll relate it back to what we did.
Yeah, go on.
So we get paid for playing covers because we're providing a service.
Yes.
So we're providing a service to a venue.
Yeah.
But when we played originals, we wouldn't get paid.
Yes.
So you're creating an original content.
Great.
So you weren't getting paid. So we would use the cover shows to pay for our albums.
Yes.
So initially when we first did our albums, we did them as cheap as we possibly could. So they were in plastic slips, CDs.
Yeah.
We printed them ourselves. Everything was done on a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
And then how we approached people was, we've got this CD, you pay what you think it's worth.
Great.
So if you think it's worth nothing, here you go. That's fine. We're still getting it out there.
Yeah.
But then we found that a lot of people were like, well, I'll give you $10 or $20 for it.
Yeah.
And they were like overpaying for it. And we were like, well, now we've got to give you more shit because we don't think it's worth that. So that's the kind of approach. You're in an environment now where you have people don't want to own their media. They want to work off Spotify and stuff like that, so they're not buying CDs and stuff like that anymore. Yeah. So you need to find a way to have that revenue. So if you're not necessarily asking for money, but you're saying, hey, look, we've provided this entertainment, you pay what you think it's worth. And if you don't feel it's worth anything, then that's fine. If you do think it's worth something, feel free to pay it. But if that's how you would approach Patreon, as opposed to, hey, why don't you go and donate to us, as opposed to, well, hey, look, we've got a Patreon. If you feel like you want to give us some cash, go for it. If you don't, feel free, enjoy the content.
Exactly.
And that's how we approached it for a very, very long time. And even now, like if we've got our CDs and, someone really loves the music and we'll just give them a CD.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
That's great.
I'd rather you have it than not have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We want to get shirts made. I just want a shirt with BJ written on it.
100%, dude. Like, 100%. We have so many ideas of merch,
places.
actually.
Oh, yeah.
But
condoms.
Board games.
Yeah, boys.
Popcorn makers. Yeah. Putting that one out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's interesting because we actually we've been speaking about it on and off for the last little bit, and we actually just said tonight, like that's the approach that we want to take. Is that like we never wanted to do this because we wanted to make money. We did it because we were like, this is be fucking fun.
Yeah.
And we just want to create some cool shit, have fun. We actually, like, Benny came to me with the idea of it because I've been wanting to podcast for years.
Yeah.
And he said, I've got some girls that want to do some podcasting, and unfortunately they weren't in it. Like, how you said that with your boys, you had to be in it, or not.
Yeah.
And so both of us were like, fuck yeah, let's do it. So we just put the money down. Thanks, Benny.
No, that's all right. Yeah, because I originally came to Jay with how to do it because I knew this guy knew all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I found he wanted to do it, well, I was like, well, fuck it. You and I'll do it then.
Yeah.
And again, we just did it.
Yeah, exactly. And so to wrap all that up, it's you said something interesting before as well, how you and the boys with the band, with all the money that you pulled from the covers, you put that in a kitty to then do other things that, would help you grow.
Correct.
Just because, and not because you wanted to grow because you wanted to become successful, but because you
wanted better experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And see, like, that's the exact same thing. Yeah. And we've been like, man, we want to pay for Dazza to come up here from Sunshine Coast, man.
Yeah, I'd 100%. If there's people I want on who I know will provide good conversation and give our listeners worth in their time, I'd 100% go, hey, I'm going to pay for you to fly up on weekend.
Yeah.
We're going to have some fun.
Yeah.
Might even film 2 episodes given you here. We're going to really utilize your ability to want to share your experiences or your information with people.
Absolutely.
Because it's hard to find that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So thank you for shedding light on that as well. Just so happened to be that we were literally about to speak about Patreon as well. And
nice.
It's refreshing to hear another you're an artist, creator, or however you would like to I would consider you an artist. Yeah,
Maybe. Depends who you ask.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just refreshing to hear that opinion. And so yeah, we have the same opinion that we just want to have fun, and we do put we're putting the Patreon out there. So now, if you do want to look at that, it's there. But like we said, we're putting this content out for free.
Yep.
And we're putting this art out for free. And please consume it, share it to everyone that you want to share it to. But if you feel so inclined to give, then it's there.
Yeah,
so,
correct. Yeah,
and feel free to jump on too. Like, we're open to have anyone on.
100%.
So far, we've known pretty much all our guests, but if we don't know you, then hey, this is the perfect opportunity to know you.
Reach out and share your story.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's all we're after.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, Mick, for coming on again. And if you guys are listening on any of the major podcasting platforms and you want to see our faces, you can go onto YouTube at thatbjshow, or you can go onto the website at thatbjshow.com if you want to find where you can listen to us on any of the podcasting platforms. Benny, how can people reach out to us?
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, That BJ Show.
Yes.
All right, I guess I can do a name drop here too. Hey,
You sure? I was about to
and
say.
what's the name of your band again?
The Koffin Rockers with a K.
Yep, the K.
So you can find us on all the socials as well: Facebook, Instagram. Not on Snapchat though.
It's all right.
That's good.
There's just
That's
dick
good.
pics. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Snapchat.
No.
But we're at YouTube. You'll find us there.
Perfect.
So
Yeah,
Yep.
we'll link all of Mick's different links in
Spotify.
down below.
Yeah.
So we'll put everything down below,
Beautiful.
so you can
Thank you,
find
guys.
his work.
Including his every living end solo video, which I do remember watching, thinking,
wanna
well,
watch
they're
that.
back in the studio now,
I know.
so I'm like,
you go,
I need to
update.
watch this.
I remember watching that thinking, this fucker, I need to up my game now.
I need
I need
watch
to do
this.
a 20, 30, 40, 50 solo clip.
sorry, man.
Bastard.
Can we put a little?
I need to up you.
Can we put like a little thumbnail of your video on the top of this video?
Yeah,
Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I would love to just share just like a little tiny little clip of that, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah,
Awesome.
one of the ones where I'm not looking very overweight.
All right, I'll see what I can do anyway. I'll see what I can do.
You
No
might have to
promises.
just record it all again.
Oh
mate. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. I'll see you guys in the next episode, and have a good
Thanks
day.
very much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
So I think.
Sorry, can I just pause that
logical.
real sec? I just need to press that.
Oh, okay, cool. Go.
This will be edited out. If you want to fart, now's the time.
Do it on camera.
On camera.
Just pick up from literally wherever you just were.
Okay, cool. So I think it's logical to start from the beginning, right?